You guys had issues because of that?
Yeah, because we had Sean and Jake, and some teams felt it was unfair to have, well, not just because of Team America, but because of Team England having playtesters on your team. So they wanted to, understand like how many people were actually playtesters on each team. So it was like a question, right? So
okay. John, what's going on? You were looking to the heavens saying, "Why have you forsaken me?"
Does everything look pink?
Everything looks a little shade of pink. Same with Garrett.
I have blue lights on the ceiling right now.
Oh, I went from blue to pink.
No, I literally have blue, and my camera is not registering it. I was tripping out.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, wow.
It's like it color corrected to deal with whatever it thought was going on. There we go.
The moral of the story is
see how now it's blue? That's because I just flipped the light to red. And now we're blue.
All right.
But
look at that.
No one hired John for gender reveal parties.
Maybe it really still was blue, but it just the cones in our eyes weren't going to properly pick that up. So maybe it actually is.
Jeremy, I thought gender reveal parties were illegal in California at this point.
I'm not in California.
But they do start fires.
Yeah, they do start fires.
Yeah, they do start fires. That is very, very true.
You just have to the right permits.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get a permit if you want to do something as not as obnoxious as that nowadays. So, that's fine. Cool. Yeah. Well, there you go. The color is looking great. And I want to confirm, Garrett, yours is actually meant to be magenta.
Actually, I believe it's pink, but pink does not register.
Hey, I really think it's salmon, not pink.
That's definitely not a salmon.
Like if you're gonna fucking pick fly shit out of pepper, I'll do it right back.
No, my camera very much turns the pink into a very red color. Like it turns the yellow very orange for some reason. Yeah.
Interesting.
What is when you want to go true color mode, and I'm not bothering to do this. You got to go into the manual color controls and turn off the auto white balance.
Yeah, that's what it is. Probably.
Yeah. No, that is good. That's a good pro tip to have.
Yeah. Pro editors like Alex and I, we got that down. Those of you that follow the YouTube of our podcast obviously appreciate the high production values and incredible editing that we have exhibited.
See, I had found out what happened with some buddies of ours who also have shows with production value and such. And I was trying to figure out, I was like, man, how do they find the time to do it? And they don't. So like I was listening, our friends Party at the Alt Points, they have pretty well produced podcast, if I say so myself. And I was like, damn, these guys all look so busy. How are they doing it? And Dayton, gets the assistance from his wife is basically the editor-in-chief and the executive director of, so like really she runs the show and she just takes care of it in the background and just throws him in the front. And it works out. They have a really great combo. But you got to put the work in, right? So, oh boy. But yeah, last episode, it was just John and I. And, we talked a little bit about, the ETC or the AoS Worlds meme. I think I just changed my background when we jumped on today because I had the meme format that our good friend Ben had added to my background, which was, Bill hanging out in the back while the other team on the other side of the table is all huddled up. And on top, it just says, if you're going to take any much longer, my team's going to be too drunk to play. But we talked about a little bit about AoS Worlds, just very briefly, not too much because we of course wanted to talk to Jeremy about it today. We also I don't know, we just kind of talked, we just kind of had a conversation. What do you think, John?
Me?
Yeah, last week.
I thought it was a great conversation. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of these things. It's like an ongoing thing. Alex and I, sorry, I was gathering my thoughts, by the way, about something. Anyways,
got it.
I admit I was. Anyways, so when Alex and I go in to record together, rarely do we have like much. We have like a vague idea of our topic or whatever. And we'll always be like, oh, it'll be a quick show. Yeah, we'll just talk for a couple minutes. It'll be a quick show. We just want to make sure that maintain continuity. Make sure that everybody at least has a little something to listen to, you know. And then historically, these have been some of our longest shows. So last week wasn't. It was still over an hour clip. Alex and I talking about a little bit of everything, you know, as a great conversation. And I don't know. I feel that the shows with Alex and I are par excellence on occasion. Now that said, I have also done a solo show with Garrett, I think, right?
Yeah.
And
no, I don't think not. I think on WWW we did
Wide World of Wargaming. Yes,
on the previous
right.
show, but Jeremy more recently, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So I think both of those were some of the best shows ever. So what I really am getting to is that it's, as long as it's me with somebody else, it's possibly one of the best shows that you could get in your face. Just throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should definitely vote co-host off the island. Is what I hear.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, give them. We don't have enough roses for everyone, right? We'll figure something out.
Yes.
No,
it would be. We would have to be like skulls. Like there's each of us gets a box, and when you open your box, if it's a whole skull, you get to stay on the island. But if you get a half phase, that's a warning. And if you get the crescent skull, that's it. You're off the show. Boom, done. You're out of phase.
Interesting. I like that. See, you know, with the vibe that you're giving me, it feels like it should be more of like a trial thing, like a little obstacle course. And if you don't make it, like, oh man, if you don't make it by the time the eclipse finishes, right?
Okay.
I don't know. There's a lot we can work with that. We should think about that. But yeah, of course, this is in your phase, everyone. You know, we of course did have that slightly shorter show last week, as we talked about. This week we got a lot that we're going to look over. We're going to, of course, talk to our good friend and co-host Jeremy, where he just got back from a long trip from both Europe and the East Coast. He played in AoS Worlds, and he's had a little bit of a position change within Team America as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. But for phases, as we always start off with, my phase, just like last week, just like the week before that, has absolutely no hobby whatsoever. Nothing's on my workbench. Nothing's in my phase when it comes to hobby work. I have kind of thought about painting a little bit, but really it's about organizing, reorganizing, doing all the stuff with the wedding stuff, living, eating, breathing, all of that shit, wedding, bachelor party stuff, you name it. And then, I did get one game. I played against Sons of Behemoth, and I learned a lot in 3.0. It was the worst possible mission I could have played for the matchup. I did not realize that Man Crushers count as leaders for the leader scoring objective one, and it's listed in the FAQ. So from right ear. So that one passed by me, and that one made it a very difficult game. But I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about Sons of Behemoth. And I was like looking up STL files the last few days, and last night I was like, I'm not going to do this, but I was looking up STL files, and I was like, do I start like Undead Giant Army?
Yeah,
and I was
you
like,
should.
no, I can't.
You should.
I was looking at
it would definitely help you in time management.
Fuck off! I've been doing really good on time for the most part. For the most part, I've been doing fantastic. Not my fault that I get paired up with like incredibly newbies sometimes. Anyways, laugh it up. I'll let him get it out. Yeah.
It's been too long. I just can't hold myself.
I can tell you missed me, man. Yeah. That's good. That's good. It's healthy. Time apart is healthy. Distance made the heart grow fonder, I see. Anyways, yeah, no, I saw the giant army, and then I was like, you know what? I can't do that. I can't fucking do it. But I did see some fantastic STLs that I might make it on a smaller scale for other conversions. I saw this fantastic sculpt that's purchasable on mini whatever, it was like the mini trader one, and it's like a pyramid golem, and it's like this awesome looking, basically it's a mix between OBR and like a mummy, but it's like a giant OBR thing with like a pyramid on its back, and I was like, this is fucking tight. But Yeah, no, not going to pull the trigger on it because probably need to finish the projects we currently have before we move on to other ones. Been flirting around with an OBR list possibly, but I did change my Soulblight Gravelers list, and I'm very happy with it. Despite having such a hard game with Soulblight, or pardon me, SOB. I did learn a lot, and I kind of threw things in bad areas to see how things would work in certain scenarios. So learned a lot, and we're excited to get a rematch on SOB, and that's all that was in my phase. John, what about you?
Oh, well, I tell you what, as promised, as we talked about last week, I was able to get in a game with my good buddy Sean down at the Quonset hut of iniquity, as it were. He has become my own personal 40K Jeremy in some ways, as I go down there, and Sean has every army imaginable, well painted, beautifully painted, and proceeds to hand me my ass week after week. And this weekend was no different. So I went down there, and I had to go do a little shopping after the game. So knowing that Sean had so many armies available, I decided that I was just going to play one of his armies. So I got down there, and he, of course, had his beautiful Space Wolf army out on the table, and he pointed to the two armies that were out, and he says, well, which one of these do you want to play against? And I looked at it and I said, I want to play that army. And I took part of one army and mixed it in with part of the other army. I basically pulled the Thunder Wolves out of the army and replaced them with 2 units of what are those, the Blade Guard veterans? Yeah, Blade Guard veterans. And I got the on-foot chaplain, got the chapter master, or the Space Wolf equivalent going on, and then I put those guys in 2 repulsor, the Primaris anti-grav transports, right? The ones without all the guns. So the rest of the list comprised of 3 units of intercessors, and then a 9-man squad of Wolfguard Terminators with Thunderhammers and Combi Meltas, which, for the record, there's a Space Wolf stratagem that allows you to shoot at +1. So when you fire both the Combi Melta and the Stormbolter half of the Terminator's Combi Melta, those boys are pumping out some serious firepower. And then if anything's left, when they charge in with those Thunderhammers doing flat 3 damage, and all the crazy ways you can give Space Wolves extra attacks, they're doing some pretty ridiculous damage. Of course, unfortunately, though I had this badass Space Wolf list at my control, Sean decided to play some Custodes. And he's like, oh, I saw that this Custodes list won the such and such, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, great. And so he had a bunch of Custodes dreadnoughts, badass character on a bike, some dudes with the sword and board, some other dudes with just spears, and some named character in the background. I don't know. He just stood back and buffed and really never. He actually at the end. Okay, so he tabled me turn 4, but the last thing I had on the table was my Space Wolf Chapter Master. And of course, what was that named character? It's the named Custodes character. Does he ring a bell for you?
Treon Valores.
Yeah, that's him. Came on in. Boom. We went back and forth. Of course, I got to swing first with the Space Wolves. He killed that guy. And then that guy spent his command points to swing after death and killed back my Space Wolf guy in return. And I was properly tabled on turn 4. So it was a wonderful game back and forth. It's always a lot of fun playing Sean. But my gosh, he basically had all the right tools to take apart that Space Wolf list. So it is what it is. I look forward to the next matchup. I think next time I go in there, I am going to go ahead and go in hard with my Johnny Marines. I just wanted a chance to try those Blade Guard veterans on the table. And I'll tell you what, they are nasty. I was able to charge a unit of them and the chaplain into the Custodes character on a bike, that beat stick dude. And between the 2 of them, I killed him in 1 round of combat. So that was pretty impressive.
Wow.
And of course, he also did his swing back thing and killed the chaplain in return. But Space Wolf chaplain with the upgrade, with the relics, with the warlord trait, hashtag no joke in melee. He was pretty ridiculous. So anyway, so that was pretty much what was in my phase. Other than that, getting ready for my cousin's wedding up this weekend. So I'm heading up on Thursday. If you're listening to this as the episode drops, it is Thursday day sometime, and I'm leaving later this evening for Oregon. So just our timing. Our listeners don't know this yet, but now my co-hosts do. The timing for this week. And that's going to be about it. Went up to Eastern California, Copperopolis today, picked up my dad. He's going to ride up to Oregon with us, and be nice hanging out with him, seeing everybody for the weekend. And other than that, look forward to what?
John, where in Oregon is the wedding?
At Grants Pass.
It's 2 hours from where we're going to be this weekend.
It's going to be 2 hours. Okay, because we're going to be 3 hours south of Portland, a little bit more than 3 hours south.
Oh, I thought you were going to be in Portland. Yeah,
I have no idea how I failed to mention this in the phase. Jeremy and I, my brother and a few others, we are going to be going to a cabin in like Sun River, Oregon.
Sun River. It's 2 hours from Grants Pass.
And it's going to be a little bachelor party.
I was unable to go because I'm going to this wedding this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, you're only 2 hours away,
closer.
Huh?
We'll
see what happens. We'll see what happens.
But, yeah, fair. That's nice though.
And that's it. That's about what's been in my phase. Got a little 40K in, and getting the prep in for the wedding season that is upon me over this week. My cousin's wedding, then a week off, and then of course my good friend Mr. Gonzalez getting married as well.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Now, are you gonna hyphenate your name, or are you just gonna go ahead and take Jamie's last name?
Whoa, is that a Freudian slip? Whoa! Yikes! Fucking yikes! In front of him, no less.
Alexander Vessier. I like it.
we
Gonzalez Vessier? No, or Vessier Gonzalez? No, that sounds. It's weird. Either way to throw it around.
I like the fact that now I have a mental room in both Alex's and John's head about Alex. Like, you got me to start charging rent, guys. Like,
I do. You seem to pay on a regular basis, so you're welcome to the space.
Fuck, he does pay on a regular basis. Fucking goddamn it. Okay. Anyways, no, I'm not hyping my
that
last
wasn't
name.
in my phase. That was definitely out of phase for me.
Anyways,
Garrett, what is happening in your phase,
pocket.
my friend? What is happening over there in the pink land of pink? What is happening? What is it that could have possibly taken you away from us this last week? I mean, look at this smile on this man's face. I mean, a mere 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Garrett is flipping off guests and being totally grumpy. And now we have this joyous man surrounded by glowing pink rays of joy. Garrett Mulroney, what is in your phase this week, my friend?
So I had a busy week last week. I got a phone call last Tuesday, right in the middle of one of my work meetings. The wife gets a phone call from the organization that we were raising Stellar for, and he failed. 4 weeks into the project, 4 weeks into his training that I was expecting to last between like about 18 months. Turns out he had some issues and he failed, and we were given the option to pick him up. And they're like, well, we're neutering him on Thursday. We suggest that he recovers inside your house, so you should probably pick him up sooner rather than later. And so we decided to drive up 2 days later to go up to New York on Thursday and pick him up Friday morning and drive home. So I was unable to make it last week because I was in a car or in a hotel room driving up to Medford, New York on, I believe, Staten Island, and just picking up my dog and bringing him home. So he basically went to a 4-week summer camp, didn't like it, got homesick, got neutered, sent home.
There we go.
So that was fun. I've been basically dealing with that all weekend because it's the night we brought him back, he licked his stitches away, and I got to go to a emergency vet to get him resutured. So that was fun. And then I got to spend the whole weekend making sure that he will not lick his stitches away again. And I actually probably will have to leave halfway in the middle of the podcast to go check up on him and come back down because he is currently in his crate with a coat on, hopefully still. I mean, you say, oh, but like he already screwed himself once. He has lost all sympathy. And like I was at the event until 3 a.m. And it's just like, no, yeah, like, dog, you have a coat on, it's not coming off. You lost all the lenience that we gave you until we can get those sutures removed in a week.
I don't think I've actually seen you lose your patience before, like really lose your patience before. I've seen you get excited. I've seen you get very jumpy about things, but I don't think I've ever actually seen you lose patience.
Yeah.
I pay for that.
And then, well, the fun thing was I was up until 3 a.m. Waiting in the parking lot of the emergency vet to see what was going on with my dog. And then I had to wake up at 7 a.m. because I was doing more yard work that I've been doing for a long time. And we finally reached the conclusion of this project. I'll probably be sending pictures in the show notes. I believe you guys have already seen the picture of my yard. We laid down sod in my backyard. So I now have a functional backyard with patio, spot for my trash cans, patio, and yard. And now I get the fun project of making sure the sod sticks. So, and I feel weird because I'm like excited to go water my lawn. Like it's the weirdest feeling of like getting old. I feel like it's like, I want to go water my lawn right now because I want to have a good lawn in the backyard. And I never thought I'd be one of those people that was like obsessed with their grass, but I am. So
nice.
Yeah.
So are we beginning like a lawn saga? Will this be the thing? You know, Garrett will be like the lawn guy.
Probably not, unless my lawn becomes like a big thing where I have to constantly do things to it because it's a disaster. Then yes, but if it works, if it just takes and the sod has no issues, then no. Then I just regularly water my lawn. Probably what I'll end up doing is getting a sprinkler and using Eve Aqua that I can connect to my smart home and just automate watering my lawn during a certain time. And then we discussed getting a like Roomba lawnmower that just goes and mows your lawn for you. So I literally don't have to do anything, and then I'm golden.
I think you got to empty the Roomba lawnmower.
Oh yeah, okay, but that's like taking out the trash. So
or you can just buy a new one, depending on what the
capacity is. You can just buy a new one. But then I have to set it up. It's less work to empty it than it would be to set up a whole new one. So I've been working on that. And hobby-wise, a while back, probably before I even went to New York, I got a game in with James again, which was, by a game, I mean we got 2 games. And by 2 games, I mean we played half of turn 1 twice.
Jesus.
Yeah, basically I was playing a stupid Alario Gotrek Living City list, and turn 1 Alario got her 6 to auto kill a Terrorgeist just randomly. I was like, oh, so I killed his Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, and it was like he did nothing to me the next turn. He's like, okay, I give up. And then on his turn, next round, he went first, and he just somehow murdered Gotrek turn 1. And then I did absolutely nothing against him. And I was like, okay, cool. That's game. And we're like, cool. So we had a bunch of beers, ate some food, and barely played 2 games. So, but it was still a lot of fun. Honestly, it was just wild, just watching dice be weird and seeing how this perform. And honestly, it was one of those things where it's like, I'll never bring a Gotrek Alario list because I'm basically putting all of my eggs in 2 models that can die. And I thought it was a stupid idea, and I was proved right. It was a very stupid idea. So, yeah, that's basically what I've been working on. I am going to be running a tournament right the day before Halloween on October 30th. So I now get to get all of that terrain painted. instead of building terrain. And now that I have a backyard and the weather is getting a bit drier, I'm going to take those out and prime them, and then probably toss them to James to dry brush and get detail painted. So,
I was gonna say, man,
Okay.
they're MDF terrain like that. You can do the whole thing with some rattle cans and a few stencils and call it a day.
Yep, that's the plan. Just rattle can primer and then toss them to James to like dry brush and call it a day.
Nice.
There you go.
So, yep. But yeah, that's what's in my phase. I did miss you, Jeremy. We apparently were both in New York on the same days. I think you're muted.
He's muted.
I am muted for some weird reason. Yeah, that is right. We were in the same place. For
Your mic
other
looks to be
reasons.
working now.
Yeah, it seems like Logitech heard my cries for help after I was gone for 2 weeks.
You just
Fix
needed
your
to take a
shit.
break.
That's right. Fix your shit.
Recharge the gremlins in your computer.
Yeah, recharge the gremlins. Yes, indeed. But yeah, I was in New York City for the same time you were picking up your dog, and I spent a week there after relaxing from spent there a week to relax from Milan. So for AoS Worlds, I was there the week prior, and I got to finally experience New York City. I've never been to New York City. It was a grand old time. I got to see my sister who lives there, and I enjoyed the food thoroughly. I enjoyed the walk. I enjoyed the museum. I'm pretty sure the city was lying to me the entire time because it was beautiful weather except for one day. And I think it was trying to con me, guys. I think it was trying to take my money and convince me otherwise about the how New York City truly is. That was a great time. I enjoyed New York City fantastically. Is this my face, by the way? Is that what's happening? Is that
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if you want this to be your pre-phase, and then you could actually get into a whole other your phase if you want.
Yeah.
Followed by the actual rant. So you have a rant phase available. So you have, I'd say, three sections.
Start of my phase, the actual phase is the end of phase. Got it. We're playing 3.0 right now in Trigger.
We are playing 3.0.
And through sequencing. My phase outside of the New York trip has been, I actually was assembling Gardas Skill Soul today. I don't know if my camera can pick him up. And then I was also assembling some Liberators because I have a pretty sizable collection of Stormcast, and I'm getting ready for the new book that comes out. I'm also having Kyle, a teammate of ours, print some Stegodons and Salamanders, basically third party.
You could borrow Stegodons and Salamanders.
Yeah, those are way cooler than the ones I'm getting printed. And then because the Stegodon models is fucking atrocious from Games Workshop. I'm sorry, but it's just too old for me to like. And I'm going to try some Thunder Lizard lists as well. I'm really excited for just the Stormcast release is magnificent so far. What else is in my phase? I'm also super sleep deprived, and I'm slightly inebriated from drinking a lot and being under lack of sleep, and also resuming my diet today, which started with a lower caloric intake more than anything. And I'm ready to talk about the best tournament in the world. Not my quotation, the actual venue. You guys want to talk about AoS Worlds now? Is that my transition? Is that okay?
Wait. Is there an intermediary rant that you would like to offer us before we get into the actual AoS Worlds?
I do.
Perhaps something about your travel experience, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I do have a rant, but it's related to AoS Worlds. But I will use this is gonna sound really niche and so forth. But this is how much I think that New York was lying to me about what kind of city it is. Not outside of the weather, was the fact that A, no one was rude. B, I didn't see a single homeless camp, homeless tent, and I went through a ton of parks.
Well,
I went through a ton of parks. Sorry.
Homelessness is not as big as
Oh no! Well, actually,
homelessness isn't as much of a prevalence on the East Coast because it's actually really dangerous to be homeless on the East Coast due to the cold weather and rain weather out here.
In the 70s and 80s, didn't a certain president of ours, in the early mid 80s, just kind of like give them all a bus ticket to California?
Yeah, that too.
Well, the point I was trying to make is that I was saying like all the stereotypes I've heard about New York were just not true. Like I mean, some of the things that were true, like the first night I was there, we saw a giant rat like just run right in front of my feet. The first night, that was the only rat I saw. The entire week I was there, and we were walking like out and about a long time. The metro was fucking amazing. The buses were amazing. Like just like none of the none of the stereotypes I hear about New York were like true in any way, shape, or form true my entire stay there, which is a running gag that I've been like telling people. I'm pretty sure the city's trying to lie to me. It's trying to deceive me into thinking this is something else. But it was that in terms of travel, hey, that was it. Like that's not even a real rent. It was mostly like I'm renting about the fact. It's like I'm renting about New York not being as shitty as it's supposed to be, right? So,
note, New York City, not so bad.
My experience there was very, a lot of people, locals tell me like I came at the perfect time. It was right after it flooded and the hurricane went through. So like the weather had just basically been like stabilized. It's beautiful except for one day. And that one day felt like Portland weather, but very light Portland weather. Like it was raining, but it was still pretty like acclimated. Like I don't know, it was a great. I will say though, MoMA was fantastic. I loved the Museum of Modern Arts. It was one of my favorite venues to see that entire week. But anyway, I don't really have a rant about like travel at all. Surprisingly, the actually, traveling internationally, it was the stress of getting all of the ducks in order was actually more stressful than it actually was traveling there. They really only checked if we were vaccinated. They didn't even check if we had the test results when we got to Italy at all. They didn't even check. They just checked that we're vaccinated. And then on the return back, though, they definitely checked for test results from the United States. But it was like outside of that, like getting a test in Europe was super easy. Like you go to any pharmacy, you can get an antigen test, which is basically the only requirement for traveling outside of vaccination in the United States. So it was very easy. But going to Europe was like all the ducks in order you had to get, and like just didn't matter. Like at least driving to Milan, they just really didn't seem. The Italian airport didn't seem to really care outside of that. Are you vaccinated? Cool. You have a passport? Cool. All right, come in. Like it's like that was about the only thing they seem to have given a shit about. But yeah, no red. No real red, at least.
Nice.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. But, of course you did just have some really big travel. So that was awesome. I got a little mini rant here, small one, and we got a notification on the Warhammer community site just this past weekend that the Age of Sigmar app the beta one is coming out very, 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 very soon. And I mentioned it on Twitter, but I just appreciate the fact that they at least told us it was going to be a beta rather than just kind of like throw it out there and be like, it's done.
Did they say it's on iOS? Because I don't think iOS supports beta apps.
No, you got to get
iOS supports beta apps.
No, you got to get signed up through Test Flight.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you have to sign up for Test Flight. That's right. Because
I think if they're doing the 40K app model, what beta app means is that they're just not going to charge you the subscription, and they're going to give you all the features for free as long as you have a Warhammer.
So it's
Plus.
As
long as you have a Warhammer Plus, it's not a beta. It's like for the Warhammer 40K beta, what it was you got to use the army builder for free as long as you had an account, which I think you need an account to use the app anyway. So they just didn't charge for the army builder for a while because they were beta testing it. And then they eventually removed the beta, which means they just put it behind a paywall again. That was my understanding of what their beta test was for 40K, and assuming that's what it's going to be again, where they're not beta testing the app, they're beta testing the army builder, which is what's behind the paywall. Like that's my interpretation if it's anything similar to what the 40K app was.
And it's so bizarre because like, and I had mentioned this too, and I actually had mentioned this, the Warcom team actually responded to a tweet I made like 2 weeks ago. And I tried to mention to them again. I was just like, I really wish that the Warhammer Plus was like its own universal umbrella app that could like work in parallel with maybe a Warhammer Plus or Warhammer 40K app, an Age of Sigmar app. So you can just do a one-click redirect to A, B, or C rather than it just be like a website with a subscription and like, you know, maybe a media player on it. And there's a lot of different things they could have done that they didn't do, that they're not going to do. But like, one of those things, like it makes me pretty nervous because like, you know, of course we see the Man Reads book for Stormcast and for War Clans. And of course, going through those, I got a lot of thoughts and they're very exciting and they're cool. And I'm happy for people who play Stormcast and or Orcs, but they had the code at the back. So maybe I knew it was coming. I didn't want it to come. Of course it was going to come. Did I want to die? Yeah, did I want to deny it until we saw it? Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. But we knew it was coming. Yeah. Like they make so much money off of those physical books, and losing 30% of your revenue to Apple and Google and digital book sales probably was just not economical.
Well, that means that people like me and way more people who are not like me, not going to download a bunch of ebooks. Because there's no reason to.
I'm going to go on the aftermarket, the black market, and just start like begging for codes. I'm like, does anybody got any of that codes? I'll pay some like $20.
You got any more of those codes, you guys?
You got any more of those codes? Yeah, I'm just going to go begging for codes out there.
Yeah.
Just going to have to find Joe Rogan.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know if you know this about me, Joe Rogan, but I need codes. That was your rant, really? Like your big thing was that like
wasn't an actual rant.
The app is going to be free to use for a short period of time, and all the things we've been talking about are actually happening. Like literally all the bad things.
I'm saving my energy on that one. Yeah.
I will say, based off the description of the advertisement, I think the app is going to be okay. Because they did say you're going to be able to search and browse war scrolls, which is what the old app was. 40K doesn't do that very well. They're actually searched by army. So they actually mentioned in the app that it is search and browse war scrolls. So that part of it,
I read the first paragraph and it all went white. So I didn't read that part.
Well, that's the biggest part.
Mm-hmm. So like the way I see it is the app is going to.
I can't wait until the search bar just takes you to a Google Drive.
Oh, don't you put that fucking evil here. Don't you put that evil here.
Yes. That was great.
So what I was going to say is like they already have the user experience of the old app for war scroll searching that they probably can't fuck that one up. It's how they're going to deal with allegiance abilities and kind of spell lores and things like that, which they have to reinvent because they're not going to have the battle tomes in them. Like the 40K app doesn't have the codexes in them. So I'm curious to how they're going to implement you searching allegiance abilities and spell lores and those sorts of things. That they can fuck up still.
So
and how dare they give us a glimpse into what they're doing earlier?
Yep.
Just launch it. And then launching it with asking for money, even though it was a Google Drive.
Another kind of side point here too. You know, when I had made that kind of observation on Twitter, there was like a small thread that was created out of it. But one of the co-hosts of Master of the Forge responded to it, and Loopy, he said that in programming, as with anything else, no amount of planning survives contact with the enemy. Users are the enemy, both figuratively and literally. And so I had to explain to him that every time I talk to Garrett about any type of UI thoughts I have on the BCP app, that I figure I'm just the enemy.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So
I mean, Alex, you've always been the enemy.
Yeah, that's my role to play here. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So you were, of course, Jeremy, in Prague, in Milan. Next year's gonna be in Prague.
Yeah, this is a very, very future forward recording. If it's gonna be.
Oh boy. So you're in Milan, you're in Italy. How is the weather?
Well, okay, so also, like in case, if you guys have any question, please raise your hands or interrupt me in my monologue about how this event went. But I want to preface for the audience that like before I kick this monologue off, that like it was honestly coming into this, because of COVID, we had to delay for 2 years. Like I did not go in 2019, I did not go in 2020. And I only went in 2021, right? This is this year. So effectively, it's been a long ride to this event. And I got to the point in my head, I'm like, why the fuck am I still doing this? Like, it just feels like I just wanted to get it over with, just get it done. I wanted to win and just, be done with it. After going there, going to see Milan, going to enjoy the venue, going to play the event, and so forth. It was probably one of the highest, my favorite all-time experience of playing at any Warhammer event.
Oh.
There is a bit of, like we create teams in America because we like camaraderie, and camaraderie is, unfortunately, an event that requires one-on-one play, right? There is no per se team at the table. There is only camaraderie outside of the game. Having camaraderie both at the table and outside of the game was incredibly nice change of pace. It really felt like I really enjoyed that mechanic and how the game and how the rounds played and how the games played. Milan was a great, fun city. It's not a very big city in terms of by Italian standards. I think we're American standards, but it was a very nice city to visit. I got to see the Milan Fortress. We almost got to see The Last Dinner by Leonardo da Vinci, or The Last Supper. Sorry, The Last Supper. Unfortunately, it was closed. We got to see their cathedral there, which was beautiful. It's made out of fucking marble, the entire thing, basically. And it was, it's a nice experience abroad. But talking about the event itself, it was well executed. The venue was great. They had it was basically built. The venue was in this kind of like event space that is an old loading site for trains. So it's this very long, very tall ceiling venue, and it's got broad garage doors, if you want to think by American standard, opening. So you're completely have access to open air from just inside the space. And it's just, and right outside of it is just basically this concert area. I would define it at. It's just a concert area, and it's just like they had a lot of food, effectively a food court / food carts. They had multiple bars across. They had multiple outside other games being played at the venue while we're playing. They also had a singles event before the team event started in the venue itself. Like it was just a great kind of space. And right outside of that space was this really long street of just bars, and bars, and bars, and bars, and bars, and bars, and bars. And it was just like this just really nice just space to get to know your team personally. Other teams were also just bar hopping and drinking and having a good old time. Keeping in mind, at the same time, we're also trying not to get too drunk because we actually trying to win this thing. But it was just a great event overall. It was well run, and the space was great. And I'm looking forward to Prague next year drastically because everybody keeps telling me Prague is probably going to be an improvement even on Milan. So I'm just I'm very psyched for it.
When you say an improvement, you think the organization and everything about it's going to be better or bigger competition, or what do you mean by that?
Well, so there was, I think, 14 teams that went to Milan, and we're expecting 23 teams in Prague, and it's also 8 players versus 6 players.
Oh, 8 players per team.
8 active players, right? Because you have a coach and basically an assistant that can also, they're non-players part of the team. So we're going from 6 active players to 8 active players plus those 2. And it's going to be 23 teams right now signed up for Prague next year versus the 4. So we're almost doubling in a sense in terms of teams. and also that we're also gaining a third more players. So it's going to be a very sizable event.
Are there more
and
rounds next year? Do you know?
No, still 6 rounds. You still 6 rounds still affords you an undefeated for 24 teams, or in that scenario. So it's 24 teams, 6 rounds, 8 players. So 8 times 24 times 6 is how many rounds we're playing. And I can't do the math in my head right now, but it's effectively that many games. Garrett, come on, chop, Garrett.
Eight times 24.
8 times 24 times 6, right? So
8 times 24 times 6. That's just how many games are played total over the course of the whole weekend.
Yeah.
That's a weird. Well, I don't know why that number is even significant.
It's not. We're just making it work. I will say one of the format changes that was a little weird for me outside of the whole team dynamic was the fact that we only played 2 rounds a day. And the 2 rounds had this very long break in between them. And the rounds themselves are very long, right? So we had the pairing mechanism took basically almost like 30 to 45 minutes in terms of doing the pairings, plus the finding your table, getting ready to deploy and so forth. But the actual rounds of play were 4 hours.
Wow.
That was the rounds of play stuff, which was a very weird thing for most Americans, because our traditional rounds of games are 2.5, stretching to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So the game played at a very different pace, and I'll be honest, like having that huge break between the rounds was kind of a detriment more than a bonus.
Really?
Because one of the things you're used to in America is you're used to playing 3 rounds a day, maybe 2 rounds the last day. So it's like snap. You're going, and you're getting shit done. And there's no respite necessarily, that much of a respite in between. When you have so much, like if you finish your game early and on top of the extra time, like you're literally like almost could squeeze an entire new round inside. And you're just kind of like, I don't know, like for me, mentally and physically speaking, it was kind of this weird start-go situation or start-stop-go situation. And it just kind of took for me mentally, it took some wins of adjusting for me personally.
I can see that where it throw you off your pace and, like you said, too much downtime. I mean, as a TO, I'm definitely used to sitting and kind of watching those 3-hour rounds buzz by, but you kind of hit the doldrums while you're sitting around, too much time to think. So I mean, how long did your average first round last you? I mean, honestly, I know you to be like, even in tournaments, you're typically finishing pretty quick by American time standards. 2 hours, I would estimate, probably about your typical game. So were you still finishing up in 2 hours, or was the other person so used to a slower pace that it slowed you down as well?
So this is where the rent comes in for me.
Oh no.
Was how time management works. So they didn't have any chess clocks for the event. So 4 hours was just 4 hours, and it didn't matter who took the 4 hour, who monopolized the timer. It's like you got 4 hours to finish the round. And for most of my rounds, they ended up either like 2 hours early. I think one round ended up like 2.5 hours early. But I had 2 games go to like literally time. Effectively.
That's a slog.
It was kind of shocking to me because, I mean, in one of the games, it was pretty obvious that like my opponent was dominating most of the time, and I remember distinctively him asking for like if he could take a pause during like turn 3 or 4, just to think about his decisions he needs to make this game. And I was like, hey, look, like we're kind of running, we're like down on the clock now, and like you've dominated like the entire time. Like you should, I'm sorry, but like please make your decisions now. Like I'm not giving you like more. He already took his timeout because every player is allowed one timeout at every round, and he already took his timeout earlier in that round. So it was just kind of like it's not to be an ass or nothing, but it was just kind of, that was like one of my biggest pet peeves at the event, was just like, holy shit, these European players for the most part play at a very different pace than we play in the States. Like
Or
they
slower.
are fucking slow. And not in a sense that like they're slow at like rolling dice or making movements or anything. They just are slow at making decisions. Like they really think about like it's not like their movement phase, shooting phase, combat phase takes a long time. It's their hero phase that was taking forever. Because when it became their turn, they would just sit down and really think things through. And which was a weird like change of, for me personally speaking, because I was just like, holy shit, like, you know, like we're on the clock, like we got to get going, like let's go, like got to make decisions, like
pre-plan
feels
your
right.
Turns.
Yeah,
pre-plan them.
But you know, in the two of those games, I'll give you a context of like how slow some of this game were. Bill played Sky Slayer, which is an army that basically starts off the table. Like he doesn't actually really have anything on the table. He played against one opponent where he didn't actually come in until turn 2, bottom of turn 2. And guess how many turns they actually got to play?
3.
4 hours.
How is that possible?
3 turns.
I was waiting for this. I just assumed that the guy's like, okay, it's your hero. Like Bill's like, it's your turn. And he's just like,
and I think,
with nothing on the table, none of his minis on the table, like.
And I got to like actually watch the last like hour or so of that game, and I was getting pissed because the guy was like, basically they were down to like 20 minutes left in the round, and they agreed to split the time appropriately, and Bill was just like, and even then the guy was still taking more than his like share of time, and then Bill was just like, look, I only got 2 minutes to make my decision. It doesn't matter. I just need to do this and that, and we're good, right?
And I'm done.
And even then the guy was giving like Bill grief to like speed up, and I was like losing my shit across the table because I was just like, dude, what the fuck? Like you literally had a 4-hour round, you played 3 hours and 30 minutes of that round. You're giving the guy grief for like having 2 minutes to play his entire turn on turn bottom of turn 3. It was just like I was like, if this was an American tournament, like, well, you know, assuming Bill would have called a judge over and had like, he would have been DQ'd like on the spot. Like that is unacceptable time management. Like 3.5 hours of, you know, I'm sure I'm exaggerating. It's probably closer to 3 hours, but 3 hours out of 4 is insane to me.
Wow, that's
like,
pretty amazing.
So that was my biggest gripe of the event, was like the European teams play fucking slowly, and I think that it's gonna be a wake up call for them next year, because I think we're probably on the pace. Like it was such a problem this year that they have to institute chess clocks.
If you can't finish a 5-turn game in 4 hours of gameplay at the world championship level of gameplay, then yeah, you had better take a damn chess clock. I'm amazed at what I'm hearing.
I am, and once again, clarify, I am not accusing anybody of slow playing, but it was very much so like they were very used to that time of cadence, and it is very infuriating to make it from a fair play perspective. If you're only going to play like 1 hour and your opponent gets 3 extra hours and you don't even end the game on a natural turn conclusion, that is like one of the most infuriating experiences you can have in a competitive environment. Because it's like, well, if we played the full game, would I have been able to win? Or if you were actually on a time crunch because you're dominating someone so much of the time and you actually had to make decisions quicker, would you make more bad decisions? Because by American player standard, like we are traditionally making much more decisions quickly, so we might make more mistakes because that's the time cadence we play with. But they're just like, literally, they could fucking have like a siesta in the middle of the fucking round, and it was completely aggravating to what, like, because I only got to be, only 2 of my games basically went to time, and only one of them went to time. The other one was kind of just like, it was the last round of the event, and we're just kind of, I think, burnt out. But I got to watch a lot of my teammates' games that went to time, and I'm just like, holy fuck, like these guys are just taking forever to make any decision, and it's not going to get any better for them in 3.0 because they're going to have to deal with heroic actions and battle tactics. Can you imagine like a player taking like 25 minutes just to decide what his battle tactic is, like, and his heroic action every turn. That's just like, that was some of the hero phases I was watching. Like, it was taking literally 25 minutes to end a hero phase. And it wasn't like they were casting a lot like Siege. It was just literally pausing, thinking about the game, making decisions, like planning out like all their decisions and so forth. And don't get me wrong, like, I fully respect that. I do it all the time. I just do it in like 10 minutes at most, not 25.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that. Holy shit.
I just want to confirm the 4-hour rounds was including pairing the teams, right?
No.
Doing the pairings. Oh, no.
No, it's on top of that. The pairings are not associated with the 4-hour time slots.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, yeah, okay. And it's 2.0 because 3.0, like, yeah, we would do. We I think settled on 245 in the States. Was like a good 230 was fast. 230 felt very quick. And 245 was the number that I think we settled on, and you guys had 4-hour rounds.
Which apparently is like not that abnormal in Europe. Apparently, I was talking to some of my players, they were like, that's not that abnormal. I'm just like, holy shit. Like,
so do they just go to bed afterwards? Like, when do they start their tournament? At like 5 in the morning?
I don't know, but it was very much of a culture shock to me. It was just that, like, oh my God, like, you guys are going, like, you're not even finished games nationally in 4 hours. Like, you would not do well in the United States.
So let me ask you a small question about it. This is, when we say World Championships, this is Europe and Team America. There was no Asian representation, no Africa, no South America, correct?
Australia.
No Canada.
Australia was there?
No Canada, no Australia. It was just Europe and America.
Australia wasn't there?
Not yet.
Sorry,
Next year, Canada will be there.
Yeah, they usually are there. They just weren't there that year.
Oh, okay.
And then there's like an Argentina, there's Latin Americans teams, but they're having difficulties traveling. Like, for example, Team Russia couldn't make it this year because they weren't able to get all their visas in order for the event. Right. So there's still like the COVID restrictions are taking a toll on a lot of like the team traveling. But it is truly a world event by means of, like, you know, there is mostly global teams. Like, you're right. I don't think we have an Asian team yet. It'd be nice for Japan or China, like, because they have so many players to make the trek. But I think the biggest challenge is like the fact that, like, it has to be like, I'll give another context of a story. I against my I think was my Belgian opponent. You know, we were required to play in English at the table. Thank God I could speak French and he could speak French, because like English was not very good, and I could not understand like the first half of the first turn. I just could not understand what he was saying in English. I was like, well, can we play in French? Because like you're just making it really hard, and it's slowing down the game drastically. Just because I'm asking him to repeat everything, it's going to be miserable for him. So we did. We played the rest of the game in French, and it was much better.
Do you think the 4-hour time expectation does come with the idea that in Europe there is a variety of languages and people are playing? You know, there is that expectation that, you know, Italians have to learn English and Belgians have to learn English, and no. There's no language. The language barrier is
our country is the outlier in the fact that it's in California. Never mind. Go on.
It's not that. It's like, so like, how often do the English players go to France to play tournaments? Apparently very rarely. How often do the Belgian players go to France to play? Actually a lot. Or Swiss. Like, the people who share the mutual language tend to travel to the mutual countries to play. But like, when there's a language barrier, they don't seem to travel that often to. In fact,
I guess that's my point, is that was there a language barrier because these people in their own home metas don't travel, and thus when they finally go to an international event, like outside of USA, England, and
maybe, but that wasn't why the 4-hour rounds were decided on.
But do you think that contributed to people thinking?
I honestly don't think that was the case. It definitely wasn't worth the 4 hours, right? So one of the big things about AoS on like 40K, a lot of the rules are pretty accessible at your fingertips. And even in English, they're pretty easy to like basically like, unless it's an allegiance rule or so forth, like war scrolls are completely accessible. So it's like it's a fairly non like binary. It's a non-real issue. Honestly, like the only time I had a rules judge come over to the table was because of a translation issue that we were having at the table. But then, like as soon as the judge was already right next to us when he asked for the judge because he thought I was getting argumentative, and I was just like, no, man, I'm saying like this is how I understood it, and like I'm not challenged. And then as soon as he called the judge, I'm like, look, I don't really care. Like it's if you want to play it this way, we're just gonna play it this way the entire rest of the round. And then the judge was, and he's like, okay, cool. And the judge was just like, oh, I love it when my players like resolve their own personal problems. Like that would we literally did not have the judges were not used very often. I don't think at the event. Like there was obviously some questions, but like it wasn't as bad. Like I was a little worried that like they only had like 4 active judges, I think, at the time at the weekend, and I was worried like that might not be enough. But it turns out like it was fine. Like people for the most part were able to speak English perfectly fine to play the game. There wasn't no real necessity for that. Like like the few times there was some linguistic barriers, it was easily overcome by just looking at the app. So, which obviously is going away soon, but into this new app. But for the most part, I have no problems with the 4-hour rounds. Is just mostly because that seems to be the kind of like this. I wouldn't say standard, but seemed to be an agreed amount of time across like the EU in terms of like play rounds. And I think it's insane to have 4 hours around and not finish a game in natural conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I could see allowing the 4-hour round, like at that point, yes, and whether you feel you encountered or not, really for some of the reasons that Garrett said, it makes sense to me. A little bit of language barriers and other reasons, organization, more time for people to look up rules because you're coming from very different metas that have interpreted things very differently, that sort of stuff. So but to not finish the game and like that is amazing. Now myself, Jeremy, I remember you threw a link up at some point. I forget where I saw it for the live stream. And so I tuned in, and so I did see you on the live stream. And it looked like you guys were in a big, was it like a warehouse or a ship's hold?
Yeah, that's a loading dock. That's a train loading. It's a train unloading and loading dock.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that's why it had that kind of industrial look to it. And correct me if I'm wrong, when I watched that live stream at first, were you playing against Team France?
Yeah, probably. So the stream was a French channel, and they were basically mostly only streaming or following the French team.
Okay. So how did that go? Was there a little bit of ribbing from your previous countrymen? What's the word when you say, oh, are you an expatriate, I guess? Did they give you a hard time about that, or was it all love, or they say, yo in French, brother, give us a hand here, or how did that go?
So the guy I played actually ended up being like half American.
Oh,
so I played a French guy who's half American in a sense. He's actually and I play, I'm half, full French, but American as well. So it was kind of a funny, like our game basically went to time. I think we ended like only like 30 minutes early, so I didn't get to watch a lot of the games. But what little I did overhear in French and what little I did see, I will definitely say that we are not cut from the same cloth, even though I share a birth nation. Because France has always been a problem child described to me for the event, the Team France, and I think like I didn't see any personally any problems, but I kept hearing over the weekend just nothing but issues, and in some cases I heard it from other teams, and I heard it from, not to create drama, like, because honestly I'm not there, but it's just like, you ask the question like, I would say that I am American and not French based on based on what I've seen this weekend. I would not associate myself with the team if I had a choice.
Something you said brought up an interesting idea. I know, I think it was in the rules that you have to speak in English, but did you notice a lot of teams communicating among themselves in their native language to kind of, or is that not an issue?
No.
Because I mean, I think it
No,
was in the
it's
rules.
the only time they're allowed to do that is at the table when the round is active, is if he calls a timeout.
So they're not even allowed to use their own language.
No,
they're not. But it
Oh,
was
collusion and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the way I was, it's the reason why I was here French is because like other games were finished and people were talking, outside of the game that were being played, and they were talking French, and I could eavesdrop and stuff. And it wasn't like, look, there wasn't like some deep dark like conspiracy or nothing. It's just that like let's just put it this way. The way I would describe it is that the French team feels that like people play a certain way at the event, and it feels that it allows them to play a certain way as well because other people are doing it. And for me, that's not what I describe as the right sportsman attitude. The right sportsman attitude is if somebody does something shitty at the table, the first thing is go high, not low. And I know that sounds like a fucking retort from a political game, but it's truly true. Like I do not believe that like if somebody does something shitty at the table, doesn't mean you have to follow suit being that shitty. You just rise above the situation and you just keep, doing what you need to do to win. You don't have to go stoop to this level. And it definitely felt sometimes, based on what I heard and some of the feedback or what I heard from other teams, and even the French team kind of pseudo admitted to that and indirectly, was that like they truly believe that like if the game is dirty, then I'm going to play dirty. And I don't mean cheat. There was no cheating. It was just that like there was like, I'll give you an example of like what they describe as like dirty, or they just at one point some French player described it as getting physical. So I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Getting physical at the Age of Sigmar table. He would describe it as basically like when a player would basically like come over to your side of the table and just like peer over your shoulder to make sure like to see what you're rolling and like get really into your personal space. That's getting physical about it. And so they would basically like this team they would criticize this team as doing that. So they felt like it was incumbent upon them to do it as well because they, that's how you eye for an eye kind of situation. And I truly believe that it's not the right way to play at the table at all.
I'm having a weird image of this game with all the players like trying to outdo how like in each other's space they're getting. Like the one guy comes over, the other guy even gets more. It's like reaching under his arms to roll the dice. It
reminds me of sorry, I was just saying it reminds me of when I was in London, like 5 years ago at this point. And some of the Americans I was hanging out with, apparently some of the British people came up to them because there were some British people that were known to cheat, and their philosophy was, of course I'm going to cheat. It's your job to catch me. Like that's their philosophy in playing 40K. Like, of course I'm going to cheat. It's your job to catch me cheating, and thus I will stop. It's not my job to not cheat. Like that was their philosophy. A couple of the top players in England, that was their philosophy in 40K. And it was like Reese and Jeff and people are like, the fuck?
You and asshole,
yeah. Like, so it reminds me of that, like, where it's just like, if you're gonna cheat, if you're gonna do something, I'm gonna do it, like, because I don't need to be moral.
Yeah.
You need to be moral.
I at no point do I think it's that extreme, but like if the French team perceived that like the team they were playing were going to be assholes, they were going to be assholes. It's basically what it comes down to. And for me, it's a weird like it's not a cool like I don't believe in that at all. Like I seriously like I think what it does is it's just kind of progresses the game. It doesn't advance the game at the table at all. And people can think of like maybe I'm a little bit too idealistic, but like honestly, like I truly believe like it makes it a worse experience for everybody at the event. So like don't fucking do that. And that was my biggest takeaway from my round against Team France. Like, but this is also my wake up call because we played Team France for second round. And one of the things also was very abnormal. Like I talked about like the round time. We're Americans, we're used to playing in singles events. There's not that many like team events. And like we try to win the game, right? We get to the table because at a single event, you want to win the game so you can proceed to the next round and keep competing for, maybe finishing on the podium or winning the entire thing. You have to win the games. In a team event, you don't necessarily have to win your game. You just have to have certain matches win the game and other ones end up in draws. And it was against the French player. It was the first time I got to play against a player that just did not try to win.
He was trying to draw you?
Yeah. It was knife to the heart. And he had Daughters of Cain with Marathi, Bow Snakes, and then Medusa. And he basically castled up on his objective. This kind of positioned Marathi in the second turn in the middle in case I moved my herd card block so he could locking them up in combat. And that was it. That was his game plan. And maybe if I overextended on my objective, maybe he could sneak it on away with the teleportation Caliban mechanic. But the problem was like, that was his game plan. He just castled up.
To me, so that's indicative of a bad mission more than anything.
Right, but
that's a mission that
it's
you can
2.0. But it's 2.0. Yeah. So like we just like Fire Slayers are very good at those missions for a reason. So that's what we design. That's how the strategy, the dynamic of that team. But I showed up to that table and I'm just like, it's turn 3, and I'm like, this guy is not making any moves. He's not even really shooting me with the bow snakes, because like all the things he gets to shoot are like not really that exciting. It's also like and he just like it came down to basically secondaries, and that game was a fucking nail biter because he made this weird decision of keeping his Medusa all the way in this corner of his deployment. Like it's basically corners facing each other, and he deployed the Medusa all the way in this corner, and he had to have it survive the game to get his priceless sorcery auxiliary because they had an artifact. But for me, my secondaries was if I killed a unit of a hero of a battle line unit, I get my secondary. And I kept a unit of Volkites with the Rudensmitter in reserve for magma tunneling. And he left me this weird pocket, which he described as a trap. But I was like, I don't understand this trap, because if I kill her of the Volkites, it's a 2-point swing. I get my secondary, you lose 1 secondary, and now like I don't even have to commit to fighting you on the objective. I get the minor win. So I really didn't understand his logic. I ended up actually charging her. She survived the 1 wound above like everything, because I actually popped like the Ren rune and everything. She survived the 1 wound. And like I was like, shit, like she didn't fucking die. And she rolled like shit, and I popped Berserk Fury so I can swing when I die. And she rolled like shit and only killed like 2 models or something. And I was really like, okay, so like that gamble didn't work. And then I'm looking at turn 3 and I'm just like, what the fuck do I squeeze out a win in this scenario? Because he's definitely not committed to like doing anything. And the reason why I ended up winning actually came down to the fact that I put him in this weird situation where Marathi could not run away from my Herf card blocks that she charged, and she was going to die, which was going to give me my secondary. And we were going to look at a straight draw because he was going to get 1 and I was going to get 1. But then he made this weirdly tactical mistake of moving his 1 wound Medusa on near a piece of terrain, and we're playing an Ash, which is the realm of fire, and they're all volcanic. And she ended up dying to the volcanic terrain, which granted, she should have died when the Volkites charged her, but she died on the volcanic terrain, which gave me the 1-point win to win the entire round. And if people are gonna think like this is pure luck, I'm like, no, this is sheer stupidity. Like I was just like, what the fuck is this? For context, I went undefeated the entire like event. I was, I think, the 3rd highest scorer at the event.
Nice.
It's fantastic.
But to be honest, like I was a defender. That's your fucking job. Like you're getting some of the best like pairings. It's just a matter of like closing it out. And in that game, it was like it gave me a taste for what was about to follow. Because in round 3, I played the Belgian team on a similar mission. It's the one of 4 objectives. If you control all 4, you win the game by
Blood and Glory.
We're going Blood and Glory. And I played against this OBR player with 2 crawlers, and it was on Ugu, which is basically everything has overgrowth. And he cornered his entire army on one objective, completely ignored the other objective. Because he's like, I can't give you the major win, so I'm just going to castle up. I ended up getting the major win on turn 5 through just sheer attrition. And the only reason why it worked so well is because the fucking crawlers didn't get, like, he literally blocked his only lane of fire with his own faction terrain piece. Because he put in the only space he could block it, and the Ogu terrain blocked terrain's line of sight.
Oh, yeah. That. Okay, I was going to say, how the fuck does it? Yeah, that'll do it.
So I blocked the only small window that was left open towards my edge with my forge. So they were just like this. My entire army got to walk across the center of the board by getting shot by crawlers.
So he completely fucked himself by where he put his piece of terrain.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And like, I mean, to give him like props, like he played for that strategy. They give him the easiest secondaries to score against me, which is basically like same thing as the second round, like prize sorcery, and like his one bone shaper was just hiding in a corner, like, please don't kill me. And I'm just trying to fight all the Mortex with the guy respawning them on a 4-up. I keep forgetting his name.
Harvester.
Like on Harvester on the objective. Like literally his entire army was on that objective, and my 40 perf guard block just trying to chew through them for the rest of the game, basically. And eventually I got it on turn 5, but it was kind of like, it's so weird playing, like there's this like mental position. I'm just like, on turn 1, I'm like, I'm trying not to be too aggressive. I'm trying to inch up the board, see what he does. And then like it clearly becomes upon me after his first turn, I'm like, he's not moving out of his castle. I guess I'll just have to run at him now. It's just like, it's just such a weird like dynamic of play style for me, because I'm like, you're not even trying to win, you're just trying not to lose, which fine. I guess in that pairing, maybe that's the way to strategize. But for me personally speaking, only playing in singles event, it was a mental leap of like, I was not prepared mentally for that. And finally,
let me understand something. So each team that you played against, you actually only play one member of that. So your team and the other team play one time, and then as a team there is a winner of that, and then the winning team goes on to play another winning team. So it is still a Swiss pairing for team. It's
Swiss pairing, but it's not winning team. It's based on points, final points.
What do you mean by
winning?
Wins weren't, they didn't if you win or not doesn't, if your team gets a win or not, that doesn't matter. Just how many points did your team get gives you a set battle points for the tournament points for the however many points you score total, that's all that matters.
So as opposed to like we do in the ITC and most other ones where the win gives you the bonus 500 or 1,000 points, here was straight battle points. Got it.
Well, yeah, because there's point differentials, right? So the max amount of points I can score is 20 points. It's assuming I get a major victory, both my secondaries, and my opponent scores none of his secondaries. And I also killed more of his units than me. And then like every time like he scores one of his secondary, or I didn't get the most skill points, you just basically knock that down by 1 point. And if it's a minor win, it's only like something like 12 points. Everything is barometer based on a 20-point margin. So anything like your opponent does like reduces that 20 points down away from you. And so like a straight draw is like 10-10, basically.
How did you feel about that as a scoring system for a team like that?
I think it was great. I thought it was fantastic. Like it's just, remember, like, so to cap it out, they maxed out the amount of points a team can score to 90 a round, which meant even though like you could have had 6 players score 20, the max was still only 90 they could score. So you had some situations like, you weren't like in case of like a really bad strength of schedule pairing, like you weren't getting super punished for just pulling out your opponent. But what we didn't expect was like our road to the entire tournament, because we played Switzerland, which is one of the highest. They ended up 4th place. Then we played France. We ended up in 3rd place. Then we played Belgium, which at the time when we played them, were like, I think like number 4 or 3 or something. And they ended up in the top 10. I think they ended up in 5th or 6th place. And then we played the Danish team, which ended up winning the entire fucking thing. And then we played, at that point, we're like, shit, are we going to have like we played like everybody we could possibly play in the top bracket the first 4 fucking rounds. And that's when we started getting pared down a lot. We played Italy next, and then we played Spain, which was 7th place when we were 2nd place. That's how low like the pairings had. Like our path was very strange. I think we had the highest strength of schedule of any team at the event because we basically played like almost all of the top five teams.
But they didn't allow you to play a same team twice. So even though because of your high scores, that's where I was going to go with it next. So I thought there was a chance to play the same team again, but they did discount that at least. Interesting.
I think that's an issue because like a 6-round tournament that you need 64 teams to have a perfect winner, and you guys had what? 20 teams? 18? How many?
No, we had 14. 14.
So 14, yeah. So 6 rounds with 14 teams, you're almost playing round robin at that point.
Almost. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty close. Yeah.
Definitely skeletal crew when it comes to events, but
there's something about like playing all the top teams early. You can just kind of like, if you keep winning, you keep knocking them. But there was a design philosophy difference between what we saw in Europe and what we brought for the European teams. They brought like basically like Babe Ruth style lists, like go big or go home. Like you either win big or you win, or you basically turtle up and try to go for like a draw just by not playing the game. Like that's how they were, like their design armies were like, they were throwing armies which were designed to win big only in certain mission or pairing situation. And if they don't get that, their entire strategy is just to turtle up and not engage for as long as possible. And we played very differently. Our design structure was, hey, we're going to try to build games where we can always be in a position of winning, but not necessarily win big. So like our point margins were not drastically high, but we kept winning. And in terms in hindsight, like maybe that doesn't work so well in the battle point setup.
Oh.
I mean, as you can tell,
well, that's an inherent weakness of differential, is that armies that plan on getting squeaky wins were actually punished because you do work like at a tournament before, a buddy of mine, Sergio, he went 4-1, but got like 8th place or like 10th place or something. And he was behind people who went like 2-3 just because every game he played almost went to a tie because he was playing very top tier players and had very close games. Every time he squeaked out a win, but his points were like 48-47. And since it was a differential system, he basically would get 0 points and he barely get wins. And can I get you
to talk a little bit more about that as I go use the bathroom because I need to go.
I mean, that's basically the story.
But for the most part, it didn't matter for this tournament because like the Danish team which beat us, like we lost to the Danish team in battle points by the margin we lost by to them, basically. Yeah. So it ended up becoming irrelevant for this team for the tournament, and maybe it's consistently irrelevant in a team format, but I can see in a singles place. It's unfortunate. All right, I need to go use the bathroom. You can either pause the recording or edit me out.
No, that's quite okay. Yeah, that's interesting when we look at some of the actual formatting of the scoring there. I guess what you really end up with is that you could have a team that literally goes undefeated through this entire event, but like you said, has a bunch of squeaky wins, and then another team who actually maybe even loses, but when they lose, they barely lose, and then they themselves get a couple big wins. In fact, you don't even necessarily have to have a hugely winning team winning score at that point. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not sure how you would game that system per se, unless what Jeremy was describing represents what the gaming of that looks like. Go big.
Yeah, no, that's what. That's
the
exactly
interesting
what
thing is we talk about like USA beat, France, USA beat whoever in USA lost to Danish. But since you're not tracking win-loss, winning actually isn't a interesting metric to talk about. Like the fact that USA beat France, it's like, okay, well, did they beat them by 5 points or did they beat them by 180 points? Was it a -90 situation?
We're all kind of saying the same thing, is the teams play, the teams are essentially like one individual split up into 4 or 8 individuals where, it's like where our thought processes during the game are to do this, this, and this to proceed to the next round and do well. Now, because everything is split up between people, your goal is to make your team proceed to the next step and go higher in rank. That might mean that, when you're in a game, you might have a sacrificial unit or a distract unit. Well, hey, player number 2 on the team, you're the sacrifice unit this round. Or like Jeremy said, he was a defender a lot of rounds, right? Or he was the defender overall. Like, oh well, you're like the army that will just like sit there and not die as much. Well, cool, like that's your role for the entire event. Like everyone's got a role to play.
I think what's even more interesting is that I feel like watching the event and seeing the coverage, it was interesting because the fact that wins aren't taken into account as a metric on placings, the reporting I felt like was misleading because they would say USA beat France. And that's not even like, I don't feel like we should even say USA beat France. I feel like we should say USA is now in 3rd place because they secured X points over France. Like that to me is how the language needs to change if this is the format continuing forward. Like winning doesn't matter. Like the fact that you, like, not even on the individual level, but on a team level, a team doesn't even need to win games if we're not tracking wins. And so I think that is kind of what Jeremy is talking about, is us as Americans, we look at this win-loss record. We hail a win above any amount of battle points as a metric that matters more. And so we chase that win at all costs. Like, as Jeremy was saying, it was very weird playing it against an opponent that doesn't even chase a win. They just chase a margin of victory. And so we as Americans need to kind of change our rhetoric and our perception. And that's because winning doesn't matter. That's the thing about margin of victory based scoring methods, is it all comes down to how big of a win you get or how big of a differential you get, and just ignore the win entirely because it's not even a metric. So don't even talk about winning, just go for the metric. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty interesting.
I'm fine with saying, media saying like America beat France or France beat America by a margin of X. Right? Like, yeah. And the context of things, that's what's important. Because I mean, for the most part, like we were after playing France, and we only had like a very small margin of victory, like 7 points or something. The entire time we had like France breathing down our necks to like overtake us. I think they might have even overtaken us at one point. But it's just like it came down to this like weird situation, like of like that dynamic exists, but at the event it didn't matter. Because all that mattered was beating the Danish team, which we did not. And
it's interesting because if you guys had beaten the Danish team by like maybe 1 point, let's say, they may have still overtaken you. If you guys had gone undefeated, but Danish had bigger wins against other teams, the ending score, they may have beaten you and the tournament results. And that's what's interesting about this conversation is you guys could have beaten Denmark.
Yeah, Denmark.
And but still lost the event. You guys could have gone 6-0 and Denmark could have gone 5-1. But that's the thing, is we shouldn't even talk about that 6-0 metric because it's meaningless. It's actually meaningless in this event. And that's where I think is where we as Americans, if that is going to be the continuing trend of differential scoring of these events, Team America needs to change their rhetoric and change the way that they view events of ignoring winning. Winning doesn't matter. You need to have high scoring games.
Now, what place did Team America end up taking? Second place.
Second place.
And how much did you lose by?
I think 30 points. And France was 15 or 17 points behind us.
Okay.
So it was. 30 points is a pretty big margin. There was definitely things we learned on day one. If we change like the way if we had done like all the changes we did halfway through the tournament earlier, it would have closed the gap by maybe like 10 points, but it would have still been like a 20-point differential. What mattered was beating the Danish team at that point. Obviously.
Well, and look, let's face it, Jeremy. We know why the Danish team was superior. And those of you that don't know why haven't been paying close attention to our show, because you'll remember deep in last summer when this show first kicked off, what was the only kind of events that we found to talk about? Events up in Northern Europe. Event after event, when the entire world was shutting down. These are people that continued to hold Age of Sigmar events. So, right, the glorious Northern European meta.
Glorious European meta. Yeah. Well, good. You know, and of course, there are some changes to the dynamic of the team as well. I know that Souza may have passed the torch. Is that correct?
Yeah, he didn't just pass the torch. He passes the fucking shield, the responsibilities, the house,
everything. Here, just fucking get rid of it. I don't need it anymore.
The litter bearer, the whole thing. It's all Jeremy now.
Yeah, it's all me. I'm officially the Captain America now for Team America for AoS. We at time of it's okay. You can call me Lafayette if you want. And then as of recording today, the application for the team for 2022 in Prague is open. Feel free to find us on Twitter and please submit your application if you want to participate. We are going, the application, the roster will be posted. The first roster will be posted on November 1st this year.
So you have some time to prove yourself first.
Well, not necessarily. We just we wanted to give people time to figure out, like, honestly think about, like, do I have the financial ways to commit to that timeline? Because there will be a practice held somewhere in the United States on President's Day next year, which is late February. At least as our target first date, and then 2 months later we're going to Prague for the entire thing. And it would be nice for us to finish on the podium. But last event, not including this one we just went to, we were second place to England, and we're now second place to Denmark. It would be nice to be first fucking place and not second place, because the bridesmaid gig is it's a real tough gig, let me tell you.
It's rough the third time, I'm sure.
It is. It truly is.
Right, Alex. So that's why it's like, Alex, are you sure you want to join the team? You really want to reinforce this bridesmaid gig to you?
You have little. he have little faith.
Wait, are you implying that if you have Alex on the team, that you would be locked into second place? Is there some second place thing about Alex that you're suggesting? Like he's
suggesting? I'm saying I don't think he wants to be bridesmaid twice.
Hey, you know what? You know what? The last GT we went to was an eye-opening experience for me. It was a spiritual awakening, and I've decided to not get into my own head on little things in games that allow me to. We had a long conversation, an episode maybe about a couple of months ago, where I think Jeremy at one point was like, "Alex, I don't understand why you do X, Y, and Z." And I was like, "Well, like sometimes I wanna, if I know I'm gonna win anyways, maybe I'll do X, Y, and Z." He's like, "Absolutely not." And I realized, and then that was further reinforced by that last GT, and I'm like, "Nope. None of that anymore. Not playing like that."
You always go for the throat and nothing else.
Throat or nothing else. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
Are you saying that Alex's problem is that he's too nice?
No, he's too aggressive because he always is in charge.
No, that's not
every single time.
No, that's different.
Sticking your neck out and being too aggressive are two very different things in the game.
I was gonna say Alex has two problems. Timing.
Jesus Christ.
In the game, timing is a big problem of his.
Phrasing.
And then B, phrasing. And then the fact that he tries to soften the blow so he can punch harder later, when really it's like always punch hard until the end.
Yes. Yeah. So that will literally, like the event in Bremerton, it was literally like a never again moment to me. I was like, cool, I'm never ever going to do that again. Cannot do it. Got it. Stripped it from my DNA.
So now
But,
it's all caps all the time when you're at the table.
You got to go. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, it'll be my mantra.
So
my mantra.
The only problem is in AoS Worlds, you might be asked to soften the blow because we need you to draw.
God fucking damn it. Anyways, that was fun. But that's cool. So the applications are currently open. You said that they're expanding the team. You guys are obviously going to have you as the captain, and then you're looking for a coach and a few players. Is that right?
8 players, 7 including me. So 7 players, a coach and assistant. And we're also looking to grow our farmer team, which is basically we want to grow the bench to the team, and also have more practice partners, and also help people build. If you're looking to just improve your skill set at the game, like that's also what the whole point of the Minutemen is supposed to be. It's supposed to, train and also expand our bench for the team for future events. Right now, I will preview it. Spoiler alert! That say like Bill will be probably coming back as a player next year. Right now, that is the only player that is hardcore. We basically guaranteeing is coming back. Every other spot is completely open on the team, and we look forward to hearing all the applications, and especially like what the big thing is we're going to try to do this year is like we reject a player on their application for as a player, it's to give them a reason, an explanation of why, and not just necessarily like we want this to be like, hey, like if you improve on these things, like you're definitely in contention, which is the whole point of the farmer team scenario is like, hey, we're not saying no, we just need we need to get some confidence that like these things are some things you're going to be able to improve on in time for the event. Because literally like one of the big important thing about AoS Worlds is you need to both be flexible and also inflexible, which is a weird way of saying it because like and sometimes like I played Fire Slayers in the event, so I needed to be inflexible because it's an army I knew and needed to be consistently winning. But you could be asked to play like Alex plays only Death, but you could be asked to play fucking Archeon at 3.0, right? If you join the team. And all of a sudden now he has to be flexible and learning how to play Archeon. So like practice reps are huge. Also overcoming like fundamental player weaknesses. It's going to be important. Like, don't get me wrong. Like they might not be the best players of their country, but they're going to be the best players you're going to play against for a very long time. Because of how pairings works, because of how games work. Like I said, when a player doesn't have the incentive to win, he can really stretch out. Like it can become a very big challenge to how do we overcome a player that doesn't have to win because he doesn't have to expose himself. He doesn't have to make decisions. He doesn't have to take risk. So how do you force that upon your opponent? So yeah, it was very challenging and very unique way of playing the game. I think it made me a better player playing there, and I look forward to making other players better players going forward.
Right on. Cool. Well, we definitely look forward to seeing what the progress looks like with all of that. And yeah, that's very, very, very exciting. I know that, Jeremy and I obviously have some things going on this weekend, specifically the bachelor party, the stag party. But John and Garrett, what do you guys have going on this weekend?
Wedding and crashing a stag party.
Mm-hmm. Well, technically, okay. I'll name the party. I'll name the party what the playlist is because I created a playlist and shared it with everyone, and I called it "Menace to Sobriety." So, yeah.
Nice.
Hey, man, that was good. It was either going to be that or
I'm just gonna add "Too Drunk to Fuck" like a million times on this playlist.
Too drunk to fuck.
No, it's all fair. If you remember, a few years ago, we took our fair friend Mr. Diamore on his bachelor weekend, and it started by my kidnapping him by putting a hood over his head,
and
kidnapping him out of his apartment, And I created a playlist for that as well. I called it Anthony's Terror. And it's been a great playlist ever since. I tell you what, that playlist you've made for your bachelor party weekend, it might prove to be a winner. Make sure you share it with the rest of us, and it may live on for years and years.
Yeah, it might have to. We'll see. I guess I'll see the final result once people start adding more to it. So yeah, it'll be exciting stuff. But in the meantime, yeah, we'll definitely share that. Garrett, what about you? What do you got going on?
I think I'm finally organizing the initial session 0 of another D&D campaign I'll be running with my in-laws and my wife, which is actually going to be an in-person game I haven't played since 2019. And so, but since, you know, it's just the in-law, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and her fiance, it's the pod that we have, we're able to do it in person. And everyone's kind of excited to play, and I'm really excited to DM. And so I think we're going to be setting up all those things. And I also forgot to mention my phase that I was really happy with. I finished my current adventure with my Pathfinder campaign, and we're moving on to new things. I don't know if John talked about it last week, but it was a really exciting time, and we got to do some downtime activities, and people got to learn some things, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm really excited to get back into some world building, and probably going to be writing some lore and doing a lot of D&D planning. So that'll probably be my weekend.
I just had an amazing idea. Okay, so in the campaign that Garrett's running for us, we're primarily fighting against orcs and stuff. And I'm picturing goblins, excuse me. I'm picturing that instead he has his in-laws all play goblin, and he does this weird counterpoint where each week they're role-playing their thing and the NPCs are our characters, and then counterpoints and stuff. So it's like a single Black Mirror adventure going on both sides.
Interesting.
Those are, I think, my favorite campaign idea that was similar along that vein was a Warhammer 40K Ascension and Dark Heresy campaign, because the Ascension campaign was you play as an Inquisitor and all the big name things, but Dark Heresy is you play as Inquisitor's henchmen. And so what you do is the Inquisitor sends his henchmen out on a mission, and the other campaign the player is playing as the henchman doing the mission. So the success of the mission that the Inquisitor sent his guys out on, which is a task he needed, is determined by a whole nother D&D party that gets to play that minor role in this massive this like epic level Ascension campaign that Inquisitors and Commissars and Seraphim and like big name heroes need to succeed, but it might not have because the player is fucked up. That's so great.
Right on.
It's similar in that way, John.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Well, that's exciting shit.
So now that's the new thing. We've got our new end phase talk.
Yeah, right. End phase talk, just kind of continuation here. Cool. Well, it looks like the phase has gone away. Everything is leveled out. And if you guys like this episode, do like and subscribe. Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You guys know the deal. We will also talk to you guys next week. Have a good night.
Hi, folks.
Night.